Hi guys, today let's talk about how to write xpath locators. So basically during interviews it's quite often when they ask you to write xpath locator for some web element on a web page. But before that, let's take a look how web pages are built. So everything that you see in a browser represents underneath is represented by the HTML structure, HTML page source of a web page. Usually it will look something like that. Top level tag will be HTML. It had nested into HTML. Body also goes inside HTML, so it's kind of tree of nodes. You see HTML on the top level, one level below it contains body and head. Body and head also can have its own nested elements and so on. So this is called HTML tree or DOM tree, document object model tree. And in the browser you can see it using view page source or inspect option. It's developer tools window. Here you see HTML is always on the top. It's a root node of HTML tree. Now head tag goes on as the first one. It contains some metadata. Usually it's not visible to the user, and everything that you see will go inside body tag. So this kind of structure called HTML tree or DOM tree. And basically xpath is used to find some specific elements in that tree. Overall, xpath is used in test automation. Regardless of what programming language you are using, you will use xpath anyway. It stands for XML path language, but it's used not only for XML, but widely used for identifying HTML elements on the web page. And it's based on the HTML structure. XPath expression is called XPath locator or XPath selector in some literature. So these are some examples. So the basics of XPath is the following. If you want to search from the one level down from some node, you will use 1/. If many levels down, you will use 2/. For example, let's find body. How to find body? Let's press Command F to see the search bar. You see it says find by string, selector, or XPath. So if you want to find body, we will say / body. If we want to find the first div inside body, we will add one more /div. If we want to find across all possible nested levels, we will use 2/. So that's how you construct XPath. Let's, for example, find this button. So from the HTML tree, we see its body, one level down div, and one level down button. So let's say body, div, button. So this is how it works. Now there is absolute XPath and relative XPath. Never used absolute XPaths. They are useless because when the HTML structure is changed by developers for any reason, absolute XPath will be broken. Like in our case, for example, if this button will be moved to one more additional div. Then you see it will never be found because HTML structure is changed, locator is changed. That's why never use absolute xpasses, use relative xpath. So absolute starts with dot, dot represents root HTML element, and then you go from there, and relative xpath always starts with double slash like we used. So always start your xpasses with double slash something. So that's the first note to make. Now it's actually not too difficult to write xpath locators when you know some specific rules. And here are my rules for you. First one, always start by typing / asterisk and square brackets. And then inside square brackets, you can start putting attribute. And by saying attribute, I mean, where was it? So here, for example, for this div, class is an attribute. Data component position is an attribute. This is the value of the attribute. So attribute name and attribute value are separated by equal sign. And value always go in quotes, as you might see. So let's, for example, imagine that we was asked to identify this search bar, search input. We can use this arrow sign to make it scroll DOM3 or HTML3 to this element to see what we can use. So you see type is input of this web element, HTML element, and it has area label attribute with some value, capitalize, capitalize attribute, autocorrect, data test, ID, name, and so on. So it has this specific one has a lot of attributes with a lot of values. If an element has an ID, it's always preferable to search by ID. In our case, we can see that ID equals search. So when you started with this basic syntax, then you should write add name of attribute. In our case, attribute is ID equals, and in single or double quotes, you can type the value of this attribute. And here you see it shows 1 of 1, meaning that one element is found of one possible that corresponds to this xpath. So for this specific input, it will be this locator. Asterisk in this case represents any tag. So for example, in our case, it's input. We can also type input and the same element will be found. But if we don't want to be restricted to some specific tag name in HTML, it's always a good idea whenever possible is to use asterisk, because some elements like divs, they might be renamed to span or to any other tag name, and then your locator will become broken. So it's always a good idea to use asterisk whenever possible. In some cases, you will be forced to use input, specific tag name like input, when there are few elements corresponds to the same xpath and so on. So that's how you write search by ID. Let's try to find something by, what else do we have? By some other attribute. This one, what this one has? For example, this has data test. Let's take this value and we can say data test equals. So this is how it works. slash asterisk square brackets, then add name of the attribute equals, and in single double quotes the value of the attribute. That's the overall approach. This is what described in this 3 points or bullets. Now, in xpath you can also search in both directions, going upward and downward, and xpath also allow you to search by text. For example, here this sign in menu of web element can be found using direct sign in directly by text. And in xpath, text is not an attribute, it's a function. So instead of add text, you should write text parenthesis and then equals sign in. So you see it's showing us, highlighting the element here. It shows what elements, which element is found. So it's important to remember that text is not attribute but a function. This is what mentioned here. Now, when you search by class, so CSS styles of CSS class, usually they are being changed quite often. For example, here you see some long values with some random letters and digits, numbers and words. So it doesn't look stable or permanent. That's why you should never search by using the whole value of class attribute and equal sign like that. Let me show you. So it will be fun, but never do that. If you don't have any other attributes to search, then along with class, it's better to use contains function. Since this function you should put parentheses, and then the first parameter will be attribute. You want to contain some partial value, so it will be class, comma, and then it was style something, styled link. For example, we see here styled link something, styled link. Now it's much better. xpath locator, because first of all it's more stable, because if one of the values, for example, at the end will be removed, the element still will be searchable, if it does make sense and if you can understand what I mean. But anyway, there are simple rules that you can follow like that. So never search by class using equality, use contains. Also remember that xpath is case sensitive, meaning that each case for each letter in each word matters. If you see in HTML structure that, for search it was, so you see it's all letters are in a lowercase. And if you will write it like this, add d equals search with the first letter in uppercase, it will not find anything. So it's case sensitive, and write it exactly as you see here in the HTML3. If it's all letters lowercase, you should write exactly like that. So it's case sensitive. Now, one of the advanced features of xpath, you can also use xpath access to take into account relations between different nodes. In most cases, I most often I just use only one following. Let's say span one. Oops. And accesses I used in xpath you put slash, then the name of the x, and then colon colon, and then continue element that you want to find. But this for some complex cases, just try to remember that there are such possibilities, but you will not be using them often. Also, it was mentioning that in xpath you can use and or logical operators to combine few conditions. Like for example, if there are few elements with the same name, but one of them has type and another one doesn't, then you can combine two conditions using or space or, and it will find either of those. The same goes with AND logical operator. With OR, only one condition should be satisfied. With AND, both of them should be satisfied in order the element to be found. Now let's do some practice. So we found this ID search input. For sending we search by text. Let's try something. Let's say we want to, but it's also possible to find the collection of elements or few elements. Let's say we want to find all of these 3 cards. Come on. Let's see what we can use. So it has color dark. We see that it's div on the top level for this card. And you can move mouse and the browser will be highlighting to you which of web element you are pointing to in the HTML tree. So there are some anchor tags or links, in other words, data link, class style, data position, all manual. What is all manual? Let's try to find by this attribute. So we say // asterisk square brackets add and paste what we copied. And it found something on the top level. All manual, all manual. So you see it finds the first element is a upper level, but we don't want to find this one, we want to find only these cards. So we need to exclude first, and for that we need to define more strict conditions. Let's see what we can use. Show border. Data component ID is the same. Both of them has them. We cannot use it to separate them. Data content type. What about class styles, mobile layout? Let's try to use to add class, and let's say and contains add class equals mobile layout. Okay, now you see we have less elements, 26, and the first one is the first card. So that's how you construct your xpath by adding additional conditions to satisfy or not, to find the only the exact elements that you need. 26, what are others? Oh, it's some cards below. Yeah, so it works like that. So again, bottom line is, remember these 6 rules, and it should more than enough to be able to write xpath on the interview. Just pay attention what attributes are specific for some elements, are unique. So the more unique attribute value, the better is xpath. Like with IDs or search by text. Here we cannot search by text those cards because when you refresh the page, theoretically it can be changed. That's why it's not a good idea to, other text can appear on the cards. For example, tomorrow in a week. So it's not a good idea to search by text in locator to identify these cards. That's why we were using some additional attributes like data content type or contains by class. So basically that's it for xpath. I hope it was helpful. Bye, see you in the next one.